Something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
It certainly is, and welcome back to it. Live from the shadow of Detroit, I'm back in the chair on an important day because they're going to the polls today, kicking off another brand new day here on the Steve Gruber Show. From the foxhole of freedom, which always makes me ask, who do you want in your foxhole? Lots of work to do here today, that's for sure. That's why we're back. Three big things. Number one, back in the saddle, ready to roll. I'll share some stories of the long weekend we spent that time in Charleston, South Carolina. What a historic adventure that was. Number two, while I was away, the FBI brought down a planned terrorist attack that would have targeted the LGBTQ community in Ferndale, Michigan. Not too far from Detroit. Now two Michigan men facing multiple charges. We'll talk about that. And number three, today's not just another election day. It is D-Day for the soul of America. I'm talking about the fight for our very way of life, the battle against the creeping rot that's turning our shining cities on a hill into godforsaken socialist city-states. You know the ones, Seattle, New York, Minneapolis, once beacons of innovation, culture, and freedom, now petri dishes for far-left fever dreams, where anti-American candidates aren't just rising, they're metastasizing. These aren't your quirky progressives. These are radicals who want to open the borders, defund the police, worship at the altar of equity over excellence. Zoran Mamdani, seeking to provide a playbook for wannabe communists that lay claim to America's great cities. We'll find out if he's successful today. Independent Andrew Cuomo and Mamdani are out front, but all the money is on the communists to win it. But Mamdani isn't the only one trying to create a socialist city-state. On the other side of the country, in Seattle, things could get even worse. The city once known for its coffee and innovation, now being known as a hotbed of Antifa activity and fringe radical behavior on the left, and having its streets overrun by a growing homeless population just as a bonus. But Katie Wilson wants to take it even farther to the left. She's running to oust incumbent Bruce Harrell because she doesn't think he's progressive enough. Imagine that. Not radical enough. She's never served in any kind of executive role, but wants to be in charge of the city's $9 billion budget. She's never run for office before because she's been too busy organizing protests with other activists. And she's leading Harrell by about 5 points. In Minneapolis, the city on fire for pretty much all of 2020, the front-runner in a 15-candidate ranked choice race is Omar Fatah, another Muslim democratic socialist just like Mamdani. He's advocating for many of the same things, all of which boil down to this: more government, less freedom, a lot less safety. These far-left darlings are backpedaling community safety that's code for letting thugs run wild while law-abiding citizens hide behind smart locks. They try to deny just how radical they are, like when Mamdani says he's not going to defund the police. But here's a minute proving his priorities. Listen to this.
My statements in 2020 were ones made amidst a frustration that many New Yorkers held at the murder of George Floyd and the inability to deliver on what Eric Adams, of all people, described as the right for all of us to be able to enjoy safety and justice, that we need not choose between the two. I know that Governor Cuomo is far more comfortable in the past, whether it be his own or whether it be in attacking me for tweets made before I was even an assembly member. What I have said time and time again is the campaign that I am leading, the campaign that I am asking New Yorkers to consider, is one that has been clear on its public safety approach. It's one that speaks about a desire to work with police officers.
Yeah, it's going to be an abject failure. He's going to win. If these anti-American extremists win, expect rent control that crushes small business, green mandates that black out the grid, and hate speech laws that jail you for quoting the founding fathers. Our major cities have become test tubes for tyranny, and the poison is spilling into the suburbs, the states, the nation. Here's the bigger picture. Democrats don't have a leader. They can't figure out which is more popular, a return to common sense or a full-on head-over-heels embrace of socialism and communism. If these key players win, I'm afraid they'll take that as their answer. Mandemi doesn't seem too worried about it at all. Here's what he says.
Hakeem Jeffries was asked this morning if you're the future of the Democratic Party. He said no.
Good to know.
Do you have a response?
No, I'm focused on the next 2 days.
Do you think you're the future of the Democratic Party?
I don't dare predict the future. That's why I'm out here canvassing to deal with my anxiety to get through the tape of the future of 9 p.m. on Tuesday.
Yeah. Over in the establishment, they're also looking to secure a Democrat-run future. There's Gavin Newsom, the slick-haired snake oil salesman masquerading as a governor in California. He's not content with turning the Golden State into a one-party fiefdom. A sky-high homelessness and fleeing families. No, he's gunning for a federal power grab with Proposition 50, the so-called Election Rigging Response Act. This mid-decade redistricting scam slapped on the ballot for today by Newsom and his Democrat cronies would torch the bipartisan Citizen Redistricting Commission that California's fought for in 2010. You see, they put this together. This was never supposed to happen. But why are they doing it? To let the legislature in California stack 80-20 with leftists, gerrymandered congressional maps through 2030 to carve out 5 extra safe Democrat seats. Newsom's excuse? Well, Trump's changing the rules. Trump didn't do anything. Drawn by Democratic hack Paul Mitchell and bankrolled by the DCCC, these new lines will snake through communities like a Democrat donor's offshore account, twisting fair districts into partisan pretzels to entrench one-party rule. Polls show 60% of California is buying Newsom's snake oil. It's going to win. Galvanized by Obama ads and AOC cameos framing it as standing up to Trump. Let's call it for what it is. A blatant bid to flip the House blue, neuter any Trump agenda, and lock in socialist policies nationwide. If Prop 50 passes, you can kiss goodbye to competitive elections in the state of California with more House seats than anywhere else. Here is a California congressman's response to all of it. Listen.
That's right. We have 9 right now, so that's about 17% of our state seats. And as you say, we get about 40% of the vote in statewide elections. So already very disproportionate. But now Newsom has come up with this gerrymandering scheme where he has explicitly said the goal is to make the states, quote, a whole lot bluer and pick up 5 seats. And, you know, you got to hand it to Newsom. He's not doing just any old gerrymander. He's doing a gerrymander that has been called one of the worst of the last 50 years by Princeton University's Gerrymander Project. They gave it an F grade. So, you know, you guys were talking about the failed policies in California. California is #1 in poverty, #1 in homelessness, #1 in unemployment. So now with Prop 50, Gavin Newsom also wants to make us #1 in gerrymandering.
#1 in gerrymandering. Of course, it's a response to Texas, who rewrote their congressional districts or are in the process thereof. But look, again, it comes back to the Supreme Court decision, to me. 12 seats or more could come to Republicans if the Supreme Court comes to the right conclusion that congressional districts cannot be race-based. You cannot base congressional lines on race. It's unconstitutional. It is unconstitutional. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Virginia and New Jersey. In today's elections, they're big, they're important, and it's going to be a tough day for those on the right. I'll be right back. All right, Election Day in America. We're covering it all for you from California to the East Coast to the big races. A lot going on. Over in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger seeking to beat Republican Winsome Earl Sears with one message. She'll fight Trump to the death. Even if it means hampering her state's growth, it doesn't matter. This is what she's all in on. Listen.
You position yourself as a consensus builder, someone who works across the aisle. Would you work with President Trump on areas like job creation?
I think that, you don't work with the arsonist who burns down the house to rebuild it. And in this particular case, the individual who's responsible for an absolute attack on the federal workforce is not the right person to help rebuild our economy.
He's the president. The message is clear. Fight Trump at all costs. It doesn't matter if he does something that they actually like. It doesn't. Anything he does, they're going to fight him on. Anything. Even at the expense of job growth. Even if it means throwing your support behind a man who sported a Nazi tattoo on his chest for 20 years. Yeah, that too. The tattooed man, Graham Plattner, still doing great in the polls in Maine against Republican moderate Susan Collins. He's another radical trying to hide his true colors. Wants us to believe he was just joking when he posted on the internet a few years ago that he was a communist. But this was written when he was in his 30s, folks, not when he was a teenager. Several of his campaign staffers have already resigned, disillusioned with who he really is. But the rest of Blue America seems ready to fall for this farce. Because in the cult of the left, forgiveness is for felons and Nazis who pivot to pronouns. Plattner embodies the hypocrisy, a communist cosplaying as a centrist, tattooing terror while preaching tolerance. Doesn't take much to get the passionate left in a tizzy. They love their protests and their marches, but who's funding it? Who's funding it? You got to ask yourself that. It's not hardworking Americans, but activist slush funds with billions of domestic billionaires and foreign meddlers alike, all bent on eroding our democracy from the inside. You know, George Soros poured over $32 billion through his Open Society foundations into left-wing NGOs that bankrolled BLM riots, DAs that are soft on crime elections, and campus indoctrination mills. Senator Josh Hawley wants to get to the bottom of it, as he should. Listen to this.
Soros in particular has perfected the dark money charade, the dark money shell game where they move it around through different entities you can't trace. But Jesse, you just think about these riots that began in L.A. that they tried to then spread to other cities that Trump is now shutting down. All of them were planned. None of these were organic, and we know because they all followed the same playbook. Same thing on campuses the last 2 years. All these campus so-called demonstrations, it's all astroturf. It's all fake because the Democrat Party today is a theater troupe funded by George Soros. The problem is they're also violent. And that's what we've seen in the last week. Once again, we have got to stop the flow of the money. We've got to prosecute those who engage in violence. And we've got to shut down this attempt to divide the country, which the Democrats have been carrying on for years now.
For years. Hawley's right about this. But it's not just George Soros. He's got accomplices across the pond. As a bombshell report from Americans for Public Trust just exposed, 5 foreign charities dumping nearly $2 billion into U.S. advocacy groups since 2020, and that's just what we found. All funneled into climate hysteria, protests, election meddling, you name it, the trifecta of leftists. We're talking about the Quadrature Climate Foundation out of the UK, dropping $520 million on 41 eco-extremist outfits. The KR Foundation in Denmark, Oaken Lodge from Switzerland and the Netherlands, and the Children's Investment Fund from Britain. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Laundering cash into get-out-the-vote scams, anti-Trump street theater, and lobbying to ban your gas stove, among other things. Remember Free D.C.? Those anti-federal protests in Washington? Oak Foundation shoveled $1.6 million through Community Change to sponsor that chaos. Federal law bans direct foreign dough to candidates, but these nonprofits skirt it with issue ads and education that sways elections. It's not charity, it's conquest. Globalists buying American policy to force feed us their radical agenda, from net zero blackouts to open borders. Yeah, we've seen the way Europe is going. Europe may be lost at this point. A steep slide into a globalist nightmare. A globalistic nightmare might be more accurate. Where speaking your mind get you thrown in jail and your friendly neighborhood streets look nothing like they did growing up. And now these globalist powers are funding causes to turn our country into theirs. And Democrats, no problem with it. Whatever helps them win the next election and keep them in power just a little bit longer. We see that in the way they're using the government shutdown. Ted Cruz says it's all a power play for Election Day, and of course it is. Listen to him.
Senator, before you go, will the government open this upcoming week? This is getting seriously impacting the U.S. economy. What's your take?
I think it's likely to open Wednesday or Thursday of this week. The Democrats will wait until after Election Day because they think a shutdown is good for energizing the crazies in their party. But I think it'll be either late this week or early next week.
Are you going to have to?
Yeah. Just get through Election Day today, and then maybe tomorrow or the next day they'll say, okay, let's open the government. The Democrats are using desperate measures for what they see as desperate times, and I hope the public sees through it. Folks, the stakes couldn't be higher. Today in Seattle, Minneapolis, New York, and beyond, we face the fork in the road. Reclaim the republic or surrender to the radicals. We saw a big win in 2024. Will Democrats be pushed even farther to the left by it? Will the rest of America let them get away with it? We'll keep our eye on it throughout the day, of course. Let me ask you, when was the last time you woke up feeling truly great, really energized? That's exactly what Longevity Wellness is all about. Their nutritional shake mix is built with protein and collagen and so much more, omega-3s and even bovine colostrum to support your gut, joints, and brain. No gimmicks, just clean, science-backed ingredients that help you feel stronger every single day. Start your mornings with longevity. Visit longevitywellness.co/Gruber. That's longevitywellness.co/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber10. Promo code Gruber10. 10% off your order today. Longevity. This is for folks on GLP-1s. This is for folks that are working out hard. This is for kids that are going to football practice. This is for older folks that need to make sure they're getting all the nutrition they need to get through the day. Longevity. Wellness.co/Gruber. You're going to love this product. We do. LongevityWellness.co/Gruber. Promo code Gruber10. Save 10% right now. More on that Michigan terror plot coming up with Colonel Rob Manus. Don't miss that. Well, here's a number that you need to know, and we're going to be talking with Colonel Rob Manus here in a moment about this failed terror attack in Michigan. These guys were loaded up with weapons. They're going to go into suburban Detroit, Ferndale, for a Halloween attack. Fortunately, the FBI was on top of it. They've been arrested. They're in jail now, but they were stacked up. They've been practicing it at gun ranges and so forth, but that's just part of it. Let me give you this number. The feds prevented 6,525 known or suspected terrorists from entering the United States. Until this year, the largest number of so-called KSTs apprehended during the Biden administration, 1,900. 1,900. So it's now more than 3 times that. 6,525. The National Counterterrorism Center says it helped prevent these known or suspected terrorists, known K, suspected S, and T, KSTs, from entering the U.S. This after the U.S. Customs and Border Protection and Border Patrol officers apprehended a record of more than 3,000 in fiscal 2025. Until this year, the greatest number of KSTs they'd ever brought in was 1,903. The majority, 64%, were apprehended at the northern border coming in from Canada. But that's changed. I mean, we're talking about Tren de Aragua, MS-13, transnational criminal organizations, and so much more. It is a frightening number, but thankfully, well, we're getting it done. Boy, it's chilly out again today. Do you have your muskox yet, man? You want one of these great shirts. Muskox, it's not just a shirt, it's a family heirloom. It is the greatest flannel shirt you will ever own. We've done work with muskox for the last several years. You're going to love muskox. The softest double-brushed 100% cotton, soft as butter, tough as steel, with a Detroit company backing up. There's a QR code right on your screen right there. Get yourself a muskox. You're going to be enjoying fall a whole lot more, winter too, no matter where you might be. I see people get bundled up. You can find out more. GoMuskox.com/Gruber. The promo code Gruber is going to save you $15. It's going to be the best flannel shirts you ever own. GoMuskox.com. Promo code Gruber. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now. I've got some breaking news just crossing the desk here at this hour. Former Vice President Dick Cheney has died at the age of 84. He served 2 terms as vice president under George W. Bush, one of the most powerful vice presidents in American history, chief architect of the war in Iraq after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. member of the old Republican Guard that is fading away. He died late yesterday at the age of 84. We'll keep an eye on that and what that means today. But joining me now is Colonel Rob Maness, 32-year Air Force veteran, founder of Gator Pack, and host of the Rob Maness Show. He joins me now. Colonel, nice to see you again.
Good to see you, Steve. How are you?
All right, I'm good. Dick Cheney, a polarizing figure in American politics. We'll look into that later today. But right now I want to talk to you about this terror attack that was being laid out, ISIS-inspired attack in Michigan. These two guys were stopped after what has apparently been a pretty in-depth FBI investigation. Raided their home, found a number of weapons. They'd been practicing at gun ranges. They were going to go to a city of Ferndale, just outside of Detroit, and attack the LGBTQ community, apparently. They wanted to replicate that attack in Paris from a few years ago, right? What do you make of this from what you know about it so far?
Well, Islamism and jihadism is right here at home. You know, I mean, it has very similar indicators to the Pulse nightclub shooting, which was by a single shooter at an LGBTQ club, and he was an Islamist. So I'm not surprised. We have not been paying attention to who we have let into this country. And that is proven every day by what you see in just the political reporting coming out of New York City, Minneapolis, with Islamists that are leading in the polls for the city's top job of mayor and those kind of things. So it's very troubling. And thank goodness we've got the Trump administration in place, and they're turning our capabilities towards looking at things like domestic terrorism much more carefully, and we'll be able to find these folks and prevent some of these things.
Yeah,
we are at dangerous times.
Yeah, Mahmoud Ali of Dearborn and Majid Mahmoud, accused of planning to launch a terror-inspired mass shooting codenamed Pumpkin, according to court documents, charged with receiving, transferring, attempting to receive and transfer firearms, knowing and having reasonable cause to believe they would be used to commit terrorism. These are apparently American citizens. These are not immigrants of any fashion, apparently. These are homegrown terrorists, but their roots. And here's the thing. Dearborn, Michigan, not far from where I'm sitting, has been considered a potential hotspot when it comes to terrorism. This certainly amplifies that concern, doesn't it?
Oh, it sure does. I mean, that is where the mayor, I believe, told a Christian pastor that he didn't belong there, and the chief of police has made the police force over 50% now Muslim. So they have taken control over that city, and I'm not surprised to see that these are American citizens. And it's a challenge that we've not faced with assimilation of these refugees and immigrants, and not rounding up all the illegals that are here. It's a mixture and a combination of those kinds of issues, Steve, that America just hasn't come to terms with. And we need to dig deep down at every political level, especially, and find the courage to face this down and focus on what the real threat is. And this threat is real.
The threat is real. I don't know if you heard me make this comment just a few moments ago before you came on. The feds have prevented 6,525 known or suspected terrorists from entering the United States, by far the biggest number ever, and a good part of those folks being apprehended where I am, along the northern border of the United States. I think that we don't give enough attention to the northern border. What would you say about that?
I've been talking about that for over a decade. Look, some of the 9/11 terrorists came through the northern border multiple times. And we have got to get that border secure also. It is a vast wilderness out to the west of Minneapolis, especially, and in the wilderness up in the northeast. That is very easy to cross that border undetected, and we need to actually secure that border just as well as we've secured our southern border.
You look at it, Washington, Idaho, Montana, the Dakotas, Minnesota, as you mentioned. Michigan, we're a little harder to get into. We're surrounded by water, a lot of it. So unless they're going to do the backstroke, they don't get in quite as well. But still, it's a concern as we look at it here. And it's just a fraction of it. The Biden administration let in millions of gonaways. We have no idea who came in this country for an entire administration by design. How reckless, I mean, I don't know if you can put a term on this. How reckless was that for this country going forward?
I don't think reckless is a strong enough term, Steve. I think they betrayed the American people, and they betrayed every legal immigrant that's here and every legal U.S. resident that's here that pays taxes and works hard to take care of their family and wants to provide for the common defense. That's treachery. That's much more than reckless. And look, over just the Afghanistan debacle produced over 70,000 Afghanistan refugees that the government admitted that they did not properly vet. And you know from our past history in the war in Afghanistan that even when we had spent millions of dollars training some of these Afghanis to be Afghanistan soldiers, they still would kill Americans. They even killed a two-star general, U.S. Army general at one point after we had trained them. And he was at a graduation ceremony. So this is a perilous, perilous time because we have not been paying attention to this. And we have got to pay attention to it because, quite frankly, ISIS is here. All of the open source folks that are former intelligence professionals that I talk to and listen to acknowledge that ISIS is here. And worse, we're not seeing the indicators that the United States government is properly addressing the issue at this point.
All right. All right, Colonel, we got about a minute and a half left here. Tie this in to what you're seeing. Zohran Mamdani, almost certain to win in New York today. Fatah, almost certain to win in Minneapolis today. Another far-left Democratic Socialist in Seattle. This is going to be a terrible day for some of America's major cities that all tie back to some of these things we're talking about. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I've been stumping up in New Jersey for Jack Ciattarelli over the weekend. And when I talk to voters up there, they're concerned because they want to make sure that they turn New Jersey red so there's a place for people from New York to go, Steve, because the Mamdani issue is so threatening to them. And this is an immigrant. An Islamist immigrant from Uganda, has never really held an actual job other than through government paychecks, whose father is a total jihadist and believes in that concept. And of course, then the mayor's candidate is right out of Somalia, and we know how deadly Somalians can be.
Absolutely. Colonel, I really appreciate you being here today. We're going to be seeing you more in the days to come. We need clear voices like yours, sir, and I appreciate you getting up early.
Thank you, Steve. Have a great day.
You too. This segment proudly sponsored by PuroClean's Veterans Initiative, PuroVet. Where veterans find purpose in property restoration and entrepreneurship, we salute those who have served. 855-PuroVet, purovet.com. It is a great organization. It's from PuroClean, but they're putting veterans to the front of the line. You want to own your own company, have your own franchise, this is your chance. If you're a veteran or know one, go to purovet.com. Great partners of this program. I'll be right back. All right, diving right back into it now and keeping up to speed on everything that is happening. The markets have been doing very, very well, as you probably know, over the last few weeks, and we're entering a good period of time. Some things not doing so well today. If you're in crypto, man, you're taking it on the chin. Bitcoin is at its lowest point that I've seen in quite some time. Other cryptos not doing well. Gold is now below $4,000 again. Let's sort it all out with our good friend Nick Hopwood, certified financial planner, founder, Peak Wealth Management. If you're in the retirement red zone, you need to have a second opinion with CFP. Now is your chance to get a free Social Security analysis from Nick and his team, too. We'll talk about that. But, Nick, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Steve.
All right. So, look, gold is down, oil's down. The market's really strong, and you say we're entering the best 6 months of the year, maybe. Do tell. I like some confidence.
Yeah, Steve, if you want to pull up the chart that we shared this morning, we have seasonality coming with us here. Now, there it is. So from November to April, it's the best time of the year for the market. The average return is 7%, and 76% of the time it is higher. Now, let's compare that to the go in May and sell away crowd, where the average return is only 2%, and it's higher only 65% of the time. But I will say, Steve, this year, from May to November, the market has been up 20%.
Yeah, it's been a very good year. But at some point, you got to wonder, where's the correction? Well, where's the pullback?
Well, we do worry about that, just like what we talked about a minute ago with gold, right? Gold was at 4,400, now 4,000, so that's a 10% drop just with the snap of a finger. Now, we could see something like that in stocks like we did in April. But there's another stat I want to share with you. The Fed cut last week at all-time highs. So this has happened 21 times before since 1950. And the next year, the average has been plus 14%. And it's been higher 21 out of 21 times. So we might have a correction, but I would not bet on against the long-term trend here.
Yeah, and gold, by the way, is now below 4,000. It's at 39.90. So gold is correcting. I've look, people like me, we're just out here going, well, should we do this? Should we do that? That's why we need people like you, Nick, to say, have a plan, stick to the plan, because things are going to happen. There are going to be bumps in the road. There will be corrections, and there'll be great bull markets like we see. One of the things you say people need to do is consolidate their old accounts, the old 401k, multiple Schwab accounts, multiple Fidelity accounts, kind of get together and get a game plan and path forward, right?
Yeah, Steve, you might think to yourself, how many banks do I really need? And the answer is probably one, probably just one. Yeah. Well, it's the same question when it comes to our investment custodians. I've been coming across people who call us and they're in pain because they have so many different accounts with Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard, Merrill Lynch, Empower, JP Morgan. Recently, we had a couple who had 17 different investment accounts set up across these different custodians. And ultimately, you only need one custodian and most likely no more than 5 accounts. His IRA, her IRA, his Roth, her Roth, and your joint or trust brokerage account. And there's your 5 accounts.
I guess they took diversification to an all new level. Good Lord. All right. Investment advisor or wealth manager? Well, what's the difference?
Yeah. Today, this day and age, the terms are somewhat interchangeable, but it creates a lot of confusion for people because most advisors out there are simply investment advisors and they're focusing 100% on investments. Whereas a financial planner or a wealth manager is going to focus on retirement planning, college planning, tax planning, estate planning, cash flow, insurance, legacy, succession, and beyond. So imagine if you are paying your advisor 1% to manage the portfolio and not getting any of these other areas covered. I think that's important for people to understand the difference between a simple investment advisor and wealth manager.
And what do you do?
Funny you ask, Steve. We are Peak Wealth Management, so we focus on all of the above.
There you go. And because, look, you make a great point here. You have to have a comprehensive approach. If you have 17 accounts, you would have no idea. Even if you have half of that, it's confusing enough for me. right? And you look at these different things. Oh, this one did well. This one did poorly. Yeah, I got a little bit of gold, not much. I got a little bit of silver, not much. So when I see it fall below 4,000, I'm like, But it's just all part of a bigger picture, right?
Yeah, and we're talking about gold here. So a few weeks ago, I was on and I said, hey, gold's running, but I probably wouldn't add here, but I would wait for a pullback. Now we've started to see that. This is not a recommendation or a suggestion for anyone specifically. It's not planning advice, but we've started to see this pullback. It could continue to pull back to 3,600 when you look at the chart. And so that's when it becomes much more interesting if you're looking to put more money to work.
Yeah, and Bitcoin, the cryptos, Bitcoin all the way down to 104. So not a good time to have a lot of crypto, I suppose. But I think probably a lot of people are getting rich at the same time. Real quickly before we go, though, April 15th seems a ways away, but really it's time to start doing some tax planning, isn't it?
Yeah, Steve, now's the time to reach out to your CPA for your year-end tax planning. Make sure that you max out your 401, HSA, Roth IRA. This is the last chance to consider Roth conversions. And if you're a small business owner and you might be able to skip that January quarterly estimate or make an extra one to make sure that you're penalty proofed.
And again, this is not advice from Nick, but you are bullish on the next 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're positive about it. Yeah, that's good. Appreciate that. Nick Hopwood, you can find out more, peakwm.com/Gruber. Get that free Social Security analysis. For your retirement, and you have to make a decision at 62, 63, 64 when you can take the money. How much do you take? How does it work? How does it fit with your plan? Got to have a strategy. peakwm.com/Gruber. It's right there, the QR code on your screen. And you can talk to Nick and get a second opinion. Nick, as always, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And don't forget to vote.
Don't forget to vote. There you go. Thank you, Nick. Yeah. For the folks in New York and Seattle, we just wish you well. We do. Good luck out there. New Jersey, do the right thing. How about that? We'll be back after this. It is the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to be back after a couple of days off. Nice to see you. All right, so gold got down to 39.70, I guess. It's crawling back towards 4,000. I watch it all the time. I find it interesting. You know, I've got a little bit of investment here and there. And the best accounts, though, Ivy's done just some meddling and dabbling, I suppose. And her accounts do better than others. I just give credit where credit is due, right? Jay Jones is the other candidate I didn't mention today. He's the guy who's running for Attorney General in Virginia, who openly joked in text messages and so forth about putting bullets in the head of his political opponents. He's also facing an ongoing criminal investigation for driving 116 miles per hour. He's supposed to be the top law enforcement officer of the state of Virginia, 116 miles an hour. And he appeared with Barack Obama and Abigail Spanberger at a rally over the weekend. I mean, come on. Does anything matter to these folks? Does anything matter? It doesn't seem so. If you're tired of taking vitamins that don't seem to do much for you, Protavite. This is a breakthrough liquid formula designed to absorb quickly so your body actually uses it. And it is a multivitamin. When I say it, I mean it. 100 nutrients, B vitamins, amino acids, zinc, plant extracts, daily support for energy, focus, immune health. Ivy went and studied this company and said, you know what? Victory Nutrition International, VNI, is the one. All the scientific backing. They make only 6 products. Nutrition that gets in. Start your mornings with Protavite. Feel the difference. We do. 20% off today, by the way, at VNI.life/Gruber. Promo code is Gruber, VNI.life. If you want the best vitamins of your life, here they are. We take it seriously. All right. When we come back, Dick Cheney has died. As I mentioned here moments ago, Dick Cheney has died at the age of 84. We'll discuss that and so much more coming up here on the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to be back. Glad to see you. SteveGruber.com if you want to send me an email. SteveGruber.com. And, of course, follow me on all those social media platforms. Back in a moment. something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, it certainly is. I'm glad to be back on the scene. It was gone for a couple of days. Really appreciated a little bit of time off. Glad to be back, though, as we jump right back into it. Here we go into another big hour. Fighting for you from the foxhole of freedoms we do every single day. 3 big things to know this hour. Number 1, this is a big one. Nancy Pelosi apparently done. The 85-year-old former Speaker of the House reportedly not going to run next year, bringing to a close her grip on power in D.C. Number 2, Election Day is here. Yeah, off year. It looks like it's going to be a big night for the far-left fringe candidates from New York to Seattle, plus a big change in California, too. And number 3, we were going to start with the Islamic terrorist, but we are going to start here with the death of Dick Cheney. Breaking news happened, we learned about this just in the last half hour or so. Dick Cheney, the former vice president, controversial to say the least. A guy who in the end, I don't know that he had a party that he was with. A sharp critic of Donald Trump. A guy who took us into the Iraq War. Either on faulty or false pretenses. You decide. Either faulty or false pretenses. He spent 8 years, the most influential vice president in history, potentially, surely one of the most polarizing, 84 years old. His wife, Lynn, and daughters, Liz and Mary, and other family members were with him when he passed. The former vice president died due to complications of pneumonia and cardiac and vascular disease. You might remember that Dick Cheney had a heart transplant, right? So he lived many years that way. Widely perceived as something of a shadow president during his 8 years with George W. Bush, having more influence, more power than any other occupant of that much maligned office, right? He didn't just go to state funerals. He did a lot. Dick Cheney played a paramount role in decisions that ranged from war and peace to the economy, the environment, the meaning of the law. Author of Angler, the Cheney vice president. His hand was often unseen even by colleagues. Brought to the White House a deeply held belief that presidential power needed to be restored after being restricted too much by Congress. The brain trust of George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and Donald Rumsfeld, wrote Gary Willis in Bomb Power. They denounced a congressional coup that had hampered executive power in the 1970s. The Cheney Doctrine, which said that the United States needed to attack anyone who could conceivably pose a threat to us, preemptively. That doctrine played a huge role in the administration foreign policy at the time, particularly the invasion of Iraq, helped place the nation on war footing indefinitely. But it was, in retrospect, a terrible decision. Yeah. From my friend Steve Bannon. As the years went on, Cheney would be treated both as a nefarious abuser of American power, being called a traitor by Dick Cheney, said Edward Snowden, exiled leader of secret documents, is the highest honor you can give to an American. And as a viral symbol of it. Darkness is good. Donald Trump advisor Steve Bannon said in November 2016, Dick Cheney, Darth Vader, Satan. That's power. Yeah, Bannon comparing Dick Cheney to Satan. He also sided with his daughter, Liz Cheney, who was Wyoming's member of Congress at the time, efforts to oust Donald Trump. He despised Donald Trump. Yeah. Courage in your conviction, she said. Anyhow, born January 30, 1941, Lincoln, Nebraska, died yesterday, age 84. He did, Anthony just sent me a note. Didn't he shoot somebody? He did. He didn't kill him. That was infamous, too. He shot somebody with birdshot while pheasant hunting in South Dakota a number of years ago. Very well known for that as well. All right. So back to the terror attack or thwarted terror attack in Michigan. That was going to be my focus this hour because it's an incredibly unnerving situation to have had. Ferndale was the target. Mahmoud Ali of Dearborn and Mahmoud also, I believe, of Dearborn, accused of plotting to launch a terror-inspired mass shooting codenamed Pumpkin. They were practicing for months. Ali practiced shooting at a local gun range multiple times, including Mahmoud. A juvenile suspect referred to as Person 1 is also included in the indictments, and once with an unnamed co-conspirator number 4, according to the complaint. The charges come after a lawyer for one of the suspects who was arrested Friday claimed to the Associated Press there was no plot, and they did not expect charges to be filed. In one exchange intercepted by law enforcement, according to an affidavit, the unnamed juvenile suspect allegedly insisted that the attack should take place on Halloween. So, yeah, I talked to my brothers. We were going to do Pumpkin, he told Ali. I talked to co-conspirator 4 and co-conspirator 5. They said it is getting bad, so we got to do Pumpkin, yeah. The apparent target was going to be the LGBTQ community in Ferndale, which is just outside of Detroit. Before they could act, authorities served federal search warrants, both men's homes, storage unit in nearby Inkster, recovering 3 AR-15s, 2 shotguns, 4 pistols, 1,600 rounds of ammunition, other evidence including GoPro cameras, tactical vests, and other gear. Yeah. You know, some of my friends, if they raided their homes, they'd think that this was pretty small. With today's unsealed criminal complaint, the American people can see the results of months of tireless investigative work where the FBI acted quickly and likely saved many lives, so said FBI Director Kash Patel. We will continue to follow the facts, uphold the law, and deliver justice for the American people. How concerned are you about this? I'm quite concerned about it, to be honest with you. And I'm concerned because we don't know who came into this country for 4 years. The Gotaways. Remember the guy? They had video of this guy. You don't know who I am? You're going to know soon. And he was a known terrorist. And he was filmed saying those things at the Texas border. At the Mexican-Texas border. You would not be surprised, nor would I, if there was a terrorist attack today or tomorrow or anytime. And you would not be surprised to learn one of two things. Either they were people that grew up here in these communities that seem to promote this kind of thinking, or they had come into the country either legally or illegally. None of that would surprise you at this point, would it? Wouldn't surprise me, and it just saddens me. It's not the country I grew up in. We didn't think about terrorist attacks coming from people that grew up here. There's a lot of things that changed. We didn't have school shootings when I grew up. We took guns to school for hunting season this time of year. We just didn't walk down the hallway pulling the trigger. It was a different time. Nobody acted that way. And it didn't even occur to people. Election day in America, we'll see what we get, but I think we're going to get a lot of far-left nonsense. I think that's what we get. I think that was the whole point of the government shutdown, was to create anger among as many people as possible and have them get out and vote and blame the Republicans, for which Republicans cannot open the government. You need 5 Democrats to get on board. We'll have more after this. It is The Steve Gruber Show. We hear a lot these days about trucking and the dangers of who's driving those big rigs down the road, 80,000-pound missiles. And we're finding out that some states like California, Illinois, New York, issuing CDLs, commercial driver's licenses, to people that don't have the ability to read English, who are not in the country legally. And then on driver's licenses, we've seen things that say no name given. How is that even possible? And how much of it is true? Danielle Chafin is a third-generation industry professional, founder of Highway Veritas. She joins me. Danielle, nice to have you on the program.
Hi, good morning, Steve.
All right, let's talk about the truth of what's really happening in trucking. Look, I know we're short truck drivers in America, but handing
We're
licenses, well, people tell me here in Michigan we're short. Say that again?
Yeah, there's no truck driver shortage. It has been a narrative, an agenda that has been pushed for decades now. Come to find out, we just needed to fill up our workforce with drivers that were not qualified, untrained, unskilled, quite frankly, incompetent truck drivers to be out on our roads to run for very cheap rates.
So that's what it was about. Some of these companies, these road companies, you say they're doing it to boost the bottom line. That's quite an accusation, but that's what you're telling me, isn't it?
That's right.
How did we get here?
How did we get here? Well, after pushing that agenda or that truck driver shortage year after year after year, it actually goes back. I think the first time that we see the truck driver shortage pushed was sometime in 1987, and we've been pushing it since. It really ramped up around 2016. The messaging behind it got stronger, a lot of fear mongering behind that. If we don't have truck drivers, we can't get our groceries. If we don't have truck drivers, we can't get our medicine because trucks deliver everything. So year after year of pushing that narrative, really when COVID hit is when there was a need for more truck drivers, and that agenda finally came to fruition. And we had an incredible surge of new truck drivers, new spin-up trucking companies. And we're at the tail end of everything that happened from 2020 to 2023.
Yeah. So here's the thing. How do we make sure, how can a state like California, easy example, give a license to a guy who can't read English? We've all seen the horrific crash in Florida. He pulls a U-turn on an interstate. People get killed. I think the word you used was incompetence. How do we even allow this to happen? I'm not sure how this person would ever. Who in good conscience could put this person behind the wheel of an 80,000-pound missile, right?
Well, when we have third-party testing sites and third-party CDL schools, that CDL schools or those third-party CDL schools, privately owned, they're pushing drivers through anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks. 2 weeks would be fine if you grew up around trucking, if you had the experience prior to that CDL, sure, 2 weeks, and then you have a program where you're going to drive with a veteran driver for months on end. 2 weeks is insane, or less than 2 weeks. Even that is insane for a brand new driver that has arrived in America to be handed the keys to a CDL.
How many?
And those CDL schools are testing sites too. So they just have to take their certificate to the DMV.
How many are out there? Danielle, how many of these drivers do you think are actually on the roads that have no business being on those things that say like no name given? We've seen the IDs. They've been publicized widely.
Absolutely.
How many of these people are out there right now with your family and my family on the roads at the same time?
Yeah, there was a study published last week that estimated 600,000 drivers.
600,000. Let's be clear about this. 600,000 unqualified drivers all over America at this moment.
Yes.
So how do we fix this? Give me a solution.
The first part of this fix is to ban or get rid of all of the non-domiciled CDLs for non-US citizens. If we get rid of that, that would take care of 99% of the issue.
Yeah. By the way, I went to Grok real quick. Danielle is spot on. The shortage, there's no shortage of drivers or CDL holders that are willing to drive 18-wheelers. There's a retention crisis in some places, they say, but not a driver shortage. And if there's a retention shortage, it's because these new drivers coming in that can't read English are doing the job at less money. Good drivers can make real money. I mean, if you're a qualified driver at a good company, you can make some serious bank, can't you?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. You can make $250,000 a year. Some of these drivers I talked to that are specialized drivers that move certain things make more money than that, significantly more money than that. Depends on what company you're in, your level of experience too, right? I'll give you the last word because here's my last question. What can Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, do to correct this problem in short order?
Short orders to continue since we're not revoking all non-domiciled CDLs right now, continue the crackdown, I would call it, at the way stations and out on the highway, partnering with the Department of Homeland Security to get these guys off the roads.
There you go. And keep your family, like the one right there with you, safe.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. You just woke up.
That's all right. That's who we're trying to keep safe. Children just like that one, and
right.
you too. Danielle, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You come back anytime. All right, so I guess we've been sold a bill of goods. I thought we had a shortage. I bought into it. I never did research. I just did the research. There's no shortage of truck drivers in America, but there are 600,000 unqualified people behind the wheel as we speak. That's no small problem. The tragedy we saw in Florida is going to repeat itself until we correct this problem. And what are we doing to ourselves? And at the same time, they're going to go to the polls in places like New York and Seattle and Minneapolis and elsewhere and put far-left candidates in office who will fight against the idea of taking driver's licenses away from people who can't speak English. Oh, Lord. Well, back at it. Should have stayed on vacation. I'll be back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. I have a very serious warning for you to pay attention to. There's a listeria outbreak in America right now because of prepackaged pasta sold at major grocery stores. At least 6 people have died. Dozens have been sickened by the products. As of a couple of days ago, people across 18 states infected with listeria, 25 to the hospital, 6 have died. Yeah, very, very serious stuff, according to the Centers for Disease Control, working alongside the Food and Drug Administration and the Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Services. The deaths occurred in Michigan, Hawaii, Illinois, Oregon, Texas, and Utah. The number of sick people in the outbreak very likely higher than the number reported because people don't report it. They just think that they have food poisoning and they go on with their lives. Federal officials, with the help of state and local partners, investigating the illnesses. These are prepackaged pasta dinners. One of them was a Cajun-style blackened chicken dinner, came from Trader Joe's. Another was a market-side linguine sold at other stores. Check your Check your products. Fresh Realm, beef meatball linguine marinara meal tested positive for the strain of Listeria. Just be careful, folks. Nate's Fine Foods, which supplies the pasta, expanded its recall of certain lots of pre-cooked pasta, including fettuccine, linguine, and more. So I just want you to be careful out there. Have you ever wondered, by the way, why your metabolism doesn't seem to be doing its job? The truth is, it's different for everyone. My Pure Health uses breakthrough science and technology to uncover why you're unique. And then fix it naturally. No shots, none of that. No endless exercise, none of that. Just real food, a customized protocol, and weekly coaching. Men can lose 35 to 50 pounds in 40 days. Ladies can lose 25 to 32 pounds. The best part, they don't just help you lose it, they help you keep it off. Missy and her team are wonderful. Book your free consultation today. See how simple it is. Go to gruberhealth.com. Take the first step toward a healthier, slimmer you. gruberhealth.com. Real results, real food, not fake stuff. Real food, real simple. gruberhealth.com. Look, I did this back in 2018. They've been a partner ever since because they get the job done. They say that changes lives. I believe it's true. gruberhealth.com. I'll be right back. All right, so I keep seeing these Democrats online saying that the SNAP benefits You know, people are going without food, and the president's defying court orders. He's not. He's trying to get the contingency funds into the system, trying to work with the system. But the fact of the matter is this: it takes 60 votes in the U.S. Senate to open the government. It's simple math. There are 53 Republicans. 2 Democrats, Fetterman and Angus King, an independent but really a Democrat from Maine, have voted to open the government. That's 55. You need 5 more Democrats. So when I see people like Bernie Sanders, you know, screaming that Trump needs to open the government, he can't do it without Democrat votes. That's the bottom line. Joining me now, Margaret Spellings, President and CEO of the Bipartisan Policy Center. Margaret, thank you for being here.
Hey, Steve. Good morning.
We need to get back to work, and the only way that's going to happen, and there are some people believe it'll happen after today, Election Day, that the Democrats will say, okay, let's get to work on these things. But they're never going to make the November 21 deadline for keeping the government funded then, so they have to push it into January. It's created some compounding problems. It has. The other shocking thing to me is that 12 to 15% of Americans rely on food stamps to begin with. We need to correct that problem, too. Where would you like to start?
Oh, my gosh. Well, lots to pull on there. Well, for starters, we need to make sure that every American is working productively and can access a high-quality job and a living wage and, try to keep people off accessing social safety net benefits through education and through workforce development. So for starters. And then secondly, we need to really pay attention to the monster in the closet, the debt that overhangs our economy. And it's costing Americans really every day. When you apply for a car loan or look at options for continuing your education in college and on, it's a drag on our economy that we need to attend to quickly.
Yeah, we need to get things moving, and you're exactly right. So they cannot open the government unless the Republicans pull the nuclear option, which they don't want to do, which is to get rid of the filibuster. Right. My belief is Democrats will do that the first chance they get, but here we are. What do you think is going to happen? How long does this drag on? We're going to set the record for the longest government shutdown. That's pretty much a lock at this point. It doesn't do anybody any good. You can't discuss health insurance premiums or subsidies. You can't do things to fix the problem. You can't help Americans get good jobs. You need 5 Democrats. You got 2. You need 5 more. You need 5 more to open the government. Is it going to happen?
Only Congress can solve this problem, as you rightly say. And, there's murmurings and I think some energy. People are really feeling the pinch. You mentioned SNAP, but whether you're in an airport or whatever, it's having consequences all over the place to states and to all of us. Yeah, so, I'm hearing some murmurings. I feel like there'll be a deal in the next week or so. But, we have long-term structural problems that only the Congress can solve. And they have stood idly by too often, not just in this Congress, but in prior eras. So they need to get in gear.
Yeah. But yet what I see is Richard Blumenthal and Chris Murphy and these others out there just bumping their gums about how Donald Trump is preventing Americans from eating. Donald Trump can't solve this problem. It's completely out of his hands. And the Democrats are completely disingenuous. Well, the Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. It's their job. They cannot fix this problem. They're being held hostage. This just goes to show you don't have a king in America when the king is held hostage by the minority party making demands of how the system is going to work, regardless of the fact that they're not in power, right? I mean, that's where we are.
Yeah, and I think, Americans are having a little civics lesson about the power of the Congress. And, but I would advise my fellow citizens as we think about elections today to really, and heading into the midterms, to really ask their members of Congress, what are you doing to solve the problems of the American people today? And, there's a lot of blame to go around for that.
There's plenty of blame to go around for that. Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me. So let's talk about the Obamacare portion of this. Obamacare failed. Very predictably. I was among those, a large group of people said this will never work. This is a Ponzi scheme that will never work. And the only intention of Obamacare was to create a single-payer health care system, which this has pushed us to the brink of, which does not work for people. That's why people in Canada come to America to get surgeries that they need, because otherwise they stand in line for a year waiting for heart surgery, and many of them don't make it that far. I mean, you have people that come to America. We have the best health care in the world if you can have access to it. So
Yeah,
the
it's a
Obamacare
program.
portion has failed. The Affordable Care Act was never affordable, and it was never about care. It was an insurance scheme that pushed us down this road. Here we are. And of course, the Democrats create the problem and then blame Republicans for it. It goes both ways, but in this case, it's pretty clear what happened, isn't it?
Absolutely. We need to cry. I mean, this program cries out for reform. Absolutely. It and other, entitlement programs are a big part of the problems driving our debt, driving our nation's unsustainable fiscal situation. And so I hope that there's an appetite now that we've had 35 plus days of pain here for people to work together and make the reforms that are sorely needed in this program. It is just simply unsustainable in its current iteration.
Yeah. So, all right. So Ted Cruz thinks that this thing could be solved by tomorrow or Thursday. I don't know if it happens that fast, but I do believe that it's going to happen. And the idea, here's the other thing, Margaret, that the idea that illegals are not accessing care that they're not supposed to get, or food stamps or other government programs, that's completely naive. Of course they are. There's fraud all over this system. Fake applications, fake reasoning. We're getting smeared by all of this fraud, waste, and abuse. And the Democrats don't seem to care much about that either, now do they?
Well, one of the things that's interesting in the recently passed One Big Beautiful Bill is some requirements for states to really crack down on fraud in these programs, and to put these programs on a more sustainable trajectory with respect to who is actually and rightly entitled to receive those benefits and who is not. And there's fairly significant penalties for states and other parts of the machinery that don't adhere to those safeguards.
Yeah. We need to put in guardrails. That's for sure, Margaret. $38 trillion in debt. Nobody seems to care much about that. I think the point of no return was $10 trillion ago, but maybe I'm wrong. You can't have that go on infinitum. You can't, and you can't grow your way out of $38 trillion, which is about to be $50 trillion. I'll give you the last word.
Amen, amen, amen. And so we need to, get around a table and talk about spending cuts, talk about growing this economy, talking about what the elements are relative to entitlement reform, and making sure that Americans are more productive and are less reliant on safety nets and so forth, so we can get the ship righted, or we're all going to be in a world of hurt. We don't know when, but it's coming.
Yeah, absolutely true. I point people's attention to Greece. They don't seem to care much about it, but they should. When debt crisis came to Greece, the government there came in. Anybody that had over $1 million in savings, everything over $1 million, they took half. So if you worked your whole life and you saved money for retirement, don't think that can't happen in America. Margaret, really appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much. Yeah, if you don't, that can't happen in America, please. People that say that, I wonder what their pulse rate is, if they're awake or not. Of course it can happen in America. At what point, $40 trillion of debt? 50? 100? Oh, Lord. When we come back, we're going to talk about the government shutdown. Ivy and I flew to Charleston, South Carolina for a couple of days of, just taking a couple of days off. We had no impact of flying. That wasn't true for a lot of folks. We'll talk about it coming up. All right, so the government shut down. So we flew from Detroit to Charleston, South Carolina last week. We were there for 3-4 days. Flew back yesterday. No issues whatsoever. But I do think that it's wrong that the TSA agents have not gotten a paycheck. It's wrong that air traffic controllers, which there's already a shortage, are not getting paychecks. It is ridiculous. If it continues, more problems will occur. Maybe it'll get corrected after today. Maybe. Maybe this was the Democrat plan, just to run it as long as they could until they could get through Election Day, create enough angst and anger to get some of their marginal candidates over the line. Maybe, and maybe it'll work. Listen to this.
Controllers are coming off their worst weekend for staffing shortages since the shutdown set in more than a month ago now. Between Friday and Saturday night, there were 98 staffing trigger reports at FAA facilities. That's the terminology they use. That means controllers had to make changes, rerouting planes, delaying flights, and beyond to keep the airspace safe with fewer people on staff. Controllers are considered essential staff, are required to continue working even though they are not being paid, have not been paid now for a month. The Transportation Secretary says, well, some of them have used sick days. Other controllers are taking time off to work jobs that will actually pay them. CNN's Pete Muntean has been tracking all of this for us throughout, and it looks like we hit a bit of a turning point this weekend, Pete.
Yeah, it was a tough one, tracking all of it, and it's been a lot. So far, the biggest concerns for delays today are bad weather in Atlanta, Charlotte, and Nashville, also San Francisco, but no major staffing concerns yet. But history has shown us that things can change so fast. It's exactly how we started out Friday, which kicked off this worst weekend for air traffic control staffing shortages since the start of this shutdown.
Yeah. So it's not quite staffing yet, but it is getting more prevalent and more problematic. You see, the problem is this. The TSA folks have to show up, even though their paycheck says zero, because if they don't show up, they lose their job. You must report to work, even though you're not getting a paycheck, or you'll have to do something else. Here's Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy saying until Democrats vote to open the government, and yes, it's the Democrats. You need 5 more Democrat votes to get to 60. Here's what Sean Duffy said.
We're seeing like a rolling thunder throughout the system. It changes day by day of what facilities are low staffed, which means we have significant delays or cancellations. You saw in Newark yesterday was incredibly rough, significant delays. But I think as we look forward, Joe, this week, at the end of this week, air traffic controllers are going to get a pay stub email that's going to tell them how much they're going to be paid next week. And that's going to be zero. And the clear point from the controllers that I've spoke with said, listen, a lot of them can deal with missing one paycheck, but a lot can't. But many of them can. None of them can miss 2 paychecks. They all start, their home finances fall apart. And they're all going to have to look at taking second jobs or quitting and getting into another line of work. And the consequence of that is very real for our air system. We are 2,000 to 3,000 air traffic controllers short. I'm trying to put more air traffic controllers into the system. And what this is doing is making it more challenging and actually taking controllers out of the system. So I think this has long-term impacts beyond when Democrats decide when, their little temper tantrum is over and they decide to open up the government.
Yeah. When the temper tantrum is over and open up the government. Was it a temper tantrum or a calculated political move? We know what was said by the number 2 Democrat in the House. People are going to suffer. That's the leverage we have. Chuck Schumer says it gets better for us every day. Better for who? The people that don't have food today? People that are relying on trying to scrounge up enough food to get by for however long this idiocy goes on? Come on. Another concern is, how did we end up with that many people on public assistance anyway? More social programs, more dependence. More social programs, more dependence. It's just, yes, there are people that need help. The people that need help right now work for the TSA, they're air traffic controllers. They're people that don't know where their next meal is coming from. 5 more Democrats, that's what we need. 5 more Democrats to get to the 60 vote threshold. Here's a woman in Arizona saying she is in real fear of what happens next. Listen.
What do you want people in Washington, D.C. to know about the shutdown and the fact that this...
Hurry up and get the job done and worry about the people, not about themselves.
Worry about the people. 3 lines of cars snaked around St. Mary's Food Bank in West Phoenix this past week ahead of the expected weekend cutoff of food stamp benefits for 900,000 Arizonans.
Yeah, that's just Arizona. Almost 1 million people in Arizona on food stamps, on SNAP benefits. And there they are, not getting what they need. This is embarrassing to me. A political stunt preventing people from having the food on the table they need. And for those that are working in government that are not getting paid, Democrats, by the way, voted against paying the military, the TSA, the air traffic controllers. They blocked a provision that would allow those people to get paid, blocked it. It's reprehensible, is what it is. It's absolutely reprehensible to hold the poorest people in America hostage while demanding $1.5 trillion to provide health care for illegals. That's what we're looking at here. We have got to do better. And instead, what you're going to see today are Democratic socialists being elected as mayor in New York City, Minneapolis, Seattle. Leftist programs that have failed. More government. Of course, not certain kinds of government. Less police. They don't want that government. Not law and order. More handouts. Make billionaires pay their fair share. And all of that stuff. I'll take a break. Send me an email. Tell me your thoughts. SteveGruber.com. Send me your emails, your thoughts. I want to know where you stand. I'll be back with sports and Brock. All right, here we go. Continuing on now, it's time to check in with Brock Palmbush and sports.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Backup quarterback Jacoby Brissett threw 2 touchdown passes, and the defense forced 3 turnovers, and the Arizona Cardinals upset the Dallas Cowboys on the road 24-14 last night in NFL Monday Night Football. With the win, the Cardinals move up to 3-5. The Cowboys, with the loss, drop to 3-5-1. In the NBA last night, there were 9 games. Winners included New York, Milwaukee, Denver, and the Los Angeles Lakers. In the NHL, there were just 4 games. Winners were Toronto, St. Louis, Vancouver, and Seattle. The college basketball season began last night all over the country. On the men's side, top 25 winners included number 2 Houston, number 4 Connecticut, and number 5 St. John's. Defending national champion, 3rd-ranked Florida was upset by 13th-ranked Arizona, 93-87. And on the women's side, number 2 South Carolina, number 3 UCLA, and number 4 Texas all won. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. Greatly appreciate it. If you missed the breaking news a little bit earlier today, Dick Cheney, the former 2-term vice president, has died at the age of 84. Cheney, if I recall correctly, had a heart transplant, right? He is one of the most polarizing figures in American political history, maybe the most powerful vice president in American political history, involved with all sorts of things, including getting sent to Iraq, which in retrospect turned out to be a terrible idea. He also was a very anti-Trump individual, despised the current president, as did his daughter Liz, who voted for impeachment and then served on the select committee investigating Donald Trump, which was a sham put together by Nancy Pelosi, who, by the way, is not going to seek re-election. According to some reports, the 85-year-old former speaker, it would end nearly 40 years representing her San Francisco district, apparently is going to step away. She's not discouraging Democrat primary challengers. Colleagues say she's hinted at stepping aside, joking recently she hopes to watch Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries sworn in as the first black House Speaker if she's still allowed on the floor. All right, there you have it. Again, we're going to continue to explore this thwarted terrorist attack in Michigan. It was supposed to happen on Halloween. Thank God the FBI got it sorted out. We'll take a break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Nice to see you today. something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Yeah, it sure is. I'm glad to have you back for this next hour of the program. Big day. Of course, we're fighting for you for the foxhole freedom every single day. This is Election Day in America. We'll be talking about that some. But here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, the Nigerian-American response to Donald Trump's talk of military action where the Christians have been being persecuted. There's a genocide of Christians going on in Nigeria. President Trump alluding to the idea that he might do something about that. Number two, the alleged ISIS plot, scouting gay bars, guns, hundreds of bullets, hopes for hundreds of deaths. How did that come to be? And number three, it is Election Day. It is Election Day. Michigan voters preparing for it. They'll vote on more than 150 measures in 43 counties. 83 counties in Michigan, for those of you who don't know. No statewide ballot measures or elections. Voters will decide on billions of dollars in bonds and tax increases. The Center Square spoke with Thomas Aiello, the Senior Director of Government Affairs at the National Taxpayers Union. What jumps out to me most is the sheer number of local measures that will be on voters' ballots, said Aiello. Only Texas has more than Michigan. Those ballot measures could have real financial consequences for many of Michigan's 10 million citizens. We often think that the biggest threats to taxpayers occur in Washington or Lansing, but our data shows that sometimes the largest tax increases happen right in our own backyards. Of the 153 total bond measures, 49 of those hope to increase about $3.6 billion in bonds. And we don't have the tax impact. 99 measures look to extend or increase property taxes by about $235 million. Increasing property taxes when there's a movement afoot in Michigan right now to axe the Michigan tax. 4 measures look to extend or increase property taxes without any available tax estimates. And 1 measure in Kent County looks to extend or increase lodging taxes by a couple of $100,000 for various expenses and programs. Some of those measures do not have estimates on the impact of local taxpayers. Michigan still stands apart for the quantity of the measures' fiscal information available to voters. Aiello explained that this allows voters to then make better decisions about how to vote on Election Day. This isn't the case for most other states. Almost 75% of all local ballot measures have no revenue estimates, which unfairly keeps voters in the dark. Lawmakers across the country should follow the lead of Michigan, Colorado, even California to fix these issues. Taxpayers will be better served if they knew, what's the price tag? What is the price tag? Might be an important thing to know, wouldn't it? Knowing how much you're going to be spending if you say yes to any of it. The big story in Michigan continues to be this FBI arrest of two ISIS-affiliated terrorists. These people had the ambition to kill hundreds. Dearborn resident Mahmoud Ali was among those arrested and charged, had bought numerous guns, more than 1,600 rounds of ammunition in preparation for a Halloween attack similar to the November 13, 2015 ISIS attack in Paris that killed 137 people, left more than 400 others injured. The group of terrorists inspired by ISIS but not believed to be planning an attack in Dearborn, where the FBI believes members met privately in city parks to discuss their plans and avoid being overheard by family members. Instead, they were scouting nightclubs in Ferndale that intentionally attract members of the LGBTQ plus community. That, according to, in all of these stories, by the way, about your 43 counties that will be going to the polls today, or this in-depth story about these terrorists, come from MichiganNewsSource.com. MichiganNewsSource.com, your go-to for headlines that impact you here in the state. MichiganNewsSource.com. The alleged group of terrorists inspired by ISIS but were not believed to be planning an attack in Dearborn, like I said. That, according to the FBI special agent in charge, Nicholas Check's statements made in the criminal complaint posted online. The FBI had been tracking the communications of the group of alleged terrorists since apparently July. Since July, they had gotten on board with this. The criminal complaint cites the participation of an unidentified juvenile who was deeply involved in the plot, identified in the complaint as person one. Ali is prominent in checks accounts, as are unnamed co-conspirators who are helping plan the attack. Mehid Mahmoud, another Dearborn man, also charged for his role in this plot to kill members of the gay community. The FBI had an undercover operative who recorded many conversations, provided decrypted messages the group of men used while planning the attack. These are people in our neighborhoods. This is the America we live in 2025. A place where people hate the country so much and hate their neighbors so much, they'll go train to kill them. They recovered shotguns, handguns, AR-15s. Ali bought many gun accessories, flash suppressors. He bought holographic sights built for close quarter engagement with fast-moving targets. And look, this is all stuff that is legal to buy. And banning me from owning a gun is no solution. Banning law-abiding Americans from protecting themselves against this kind of evil is not the solution, my friends. It is absolutely not the solution. The group also tried to seek guidance from an unidentified Islam ideologue who is publicly known for his radical Islamic views, said the FBI. They were able to talk to the father of the Islamic ideologue, who told them not to delay in the attack and should go do the deed now. The good deed now. Ali and Mahmoud have practiced shooting guns nearby ranges. We know that. They were gearing up for this. Then the FBI came in and stopped it. Remarkable. Meanwhile, Christians being targeted in Nigeria get a flicker of hope from the president, who said all aid to Nigeria will stop immediately until the Islamic radicals that are murdering Christians, tens of thousands over the last few years, murdered in their churches, men, women, children. We've been talking about it here for a while. Muslim groups in Nigeria slaughtering Christians for years. And over the weekend, President Trump made 2 posts on social media where he authorized the United States Department of War to be on standby. Trump said, if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the United States will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. This is where the United Nations is supposed to come in. 2 jobs, the United Nations, 2 jobs. Stop war, stop genocide. Stop war, stop genocide. Yeah. Failed miserably on both. All right, coming up on the program, State Representative Luke Meerman will be here from Coopersville. State Representative Bill Schuette will be here from Midland. And Ivy will join me. We'll talk about our trip that we took, some of the fun we had over the last couple of days. We'll tell you about that. Coming up on the Steve Gruber Show. Nice to see you today. Make sure you go to stevegruber.com, send me an email if there's something on your mind. And follow me on all the social media platforms as well. All right, I'll be back. All right, here we go. Diving back into it in a topic that, well, you know, it's only become a big topic in the last few years. It didn't exist when I was in school. It didn't. Transgenderism didn't really exist. Gender-affirming care, there's no such thing. I'm sorry, despite what you may have been told on TikTok or wherever else, adding or subtracting parts does not change your gender or your sex. Your DNA remains the same. Joining me is State Representative Luke Meerman. He represents Coopersville in the 89th District. Luke, nice to have you on the program.
It's great to be with you, Steve.
So here's something that's going to happen that is not common, but should be more common. The Oversight Committee is going to hear testimony from victims, and yes, I use that term, victims of biological alteration, of being put under the knife, of being told, oh, I'm sorry, you don't feel right. We can fix all that with surgery and do these things and those things. You mutilate children, and they're no longer capable of reproducing. They can't have kids of their own. Their lives are changed permanently. And you don't hear much about detransitioning, although there is a lot of it out there. It just gets suppressed, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Well, we got 3 people coming in talking about that, them detransitioning. We have a mother coming in that can't feed her own child right now because of the surgeries that were committed on her.
Committed. I think that's a good way to do it. So what are the laws now in Michigan when it comes to gender, just such a stupid term, gender-affirming care? What are the laws in Michigan when it comes to those under 18? I know in a lot of places around the country, these places have gone by the wayside. You know, there was a peak of transgender identification in America in 2023. It has been on a steep slide ever since coming down, and it's going away because the barbarism of it is being proven to be a crime against children. I think it's child abuse, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, Steve, I've been part of a bill package labeling it just that for the last three cycles, legislative cycles, where the assistance, it's a felony to help us in a minor do a transition surgery. That's a bill package I was part of. So this is a really compelling testimony, I think, is what you're going to hear today at 10:30 here in the Hobb building, in the Anderson House office building. Frankly, it's heartrending when you hear about what's been going on in these kids. And I guess I just want to, ask the listeners one thing, do kids ever change their mind? And I think we should all think long and hard about that because when you start someone on puberty blockers at 13, when you do surgeries on them, they can't change their mind.
No. They can have no sexual pleasure. They can have no sexual reproduction. Their lives are permanently altered because they have been, in my estimation, butchered. What about this whole situation where kids go to school, Johnny goes to school, but then he wants to be called Jenny or whatever, and the schools keep that information from the parents, keep it secret? Where are we in Michigan on that point?
Well, we do have instances of that going on. And I think it's where parents just need to stay vigilant. School boards need to be on top of it. There's a tremendous amount of still autonomy at the school board level, and they need to put a stop to that. Many would point to Proposal 3 that passed 3 years ago as kind of giving a lot of these rights. But in my mind, what we've done is started allowing this, and it's not care. These are horrible surgeries you're going to hear about in committee 10:30 today that these people have been through, and their lives are now forever altered.
Well, a lot of them, if I'm not mistaken, Luke, they are permanently going to the doctor, permanently getting additional surgeries, permanently on medications. They're a permanent patient. I mean, it doesn't cure them. It puts them on the medical hook forever, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and we as a society have allowed this to go on. Again, it's just heartbreaking stories. I encourage people to listen to this because I hope that we as a people here in the state of Michigan can understand what's going on with these kids. I challenge anyone to listen. And after you hear these stories, tell me that what went on with them was okay. They can't get the care to detransition. There isn't medical codes for it, and there isn't help and support for it. So, we're letting these kids down. We let them down by letting it go on in the first place, and now we're letting them down by not giving them the care to help them detransition.
Yeah. I give you a lot of credit for doing this, Luke. It's really important. And the last question, what about where are we in Michigan with men playing in women's sports? I think there's a couple of cases still out there. What do you have on that for me? Anything?
Out of the House, we passed a bill saying men can't play in women's sports. And I'm guessing the governor's not going to sign it, or the Senate's not going to take it up. So It is happening. There are cases of it. Again, where is women's rights in all of that? They don't exist. Not when men can go play in women's sports.
Yeah. Title IX is turned on its head when that happened. That's a fact. Luke Merriman, greatly appreciate it. That's it. What time today?
10:30.
10:30. I tip my hat to you to doing the right thing on this. So I appreciate you being here. All right. Talk soon, Luke. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There you have it. Yeah. Butchery. Victims. No question. Still to come, Bill Schuette will be here. Reducing red tape will lead to immediate results in Michigan is his comment. We'll get to that in a moment here on the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to be back after a couple of days off. Glad to see you. You can send me emails to stevegruber.com. Follow me on all the social media platforms. Become part of the bigger conversation about this country and where we're going and where it's all leading. All right? We'll take a break and be right back. All right, Election Day. President Trump says failing to vote today is the same as voting for a Democrat. The truth of the matter is, though, in polling that I trust, Donald Trump's numbers not great in the second term. And, of course, that was part of the design of the government shutdown, clearly, to see if they could knock down his approval numbers. No question about it, right? Rasmussen, the one that I trust, has Trump underwater by 8 points. Has Trump underwater by 8 points. It is, well, he's been there for a bit. If you go back to where the shutdown began, you can see his numbers. He was +3, +4, as high as +10 in Rasmussen. And I look at, there's a CNN poll that says he's down by 15 or something. Those are the same people that told you that Kamala Harris was going to win the election last year, of course. Rasmussen was one of the few polls that was right all the way through. So Trump's numbers right now, pretty weak. So he goes into election day in a pretty weak position. Back in mid-September, he was +7, +8, and at one point +10. And now, since the shutdown, his approval numbers have gone from, in the low to mid 50s, 51, 52, 53, down to 45%. So this off-year election comes at a time when Donald Trump is in a very weak position as far as popularity goes. People are concerned about where we are with the government shutdown. And fairly or unfairly, the person in the White House gets blamed, even though he cannot do this. He cannot do this. He needs 60 votes in the U.S. Senate. Now, he's encouraging the Republicans to get rid of the filibuster. Republicans resisting that push. But I don't disagree with Donald Trump when he says, look, Democrats are going to do it as soon as they can. As soon as they have the opportunity, they're going to get rid of the filibuster. So why not beat them to the punch? Open the government, get things done. Voter ID, for example? Maybe. I don't know if you can do voter ID at the federal level because the Constitution says that states determine the time and place. I don't know if it says anything about ID. It'd be threading a needle, that's for sure. When we come back, Bill Schuette will be here from Midland. I'll be right back. You know, I love taking some time off, but I also really like getting back to work. I do. And couldn't be a better day to come back than Election Day, even though I think it's going to be a strange Election Day where far left Democratic Socialists, and you can fill in the term communists, are going to win around the country. It's just bizarre to me. But that's where we are. Closer to home, State Representative Bill Schuette from Midland is with me. Bill, how are you?
Hey, glad to be back on the show and glad you had some good time off as well. Well earned.
Well, you got to get out of the office sometimes. I mean, we sit here in the studio, and sometimes I feel like I never leave the studio. But, a lot going on. One of the things, you got a press release here about red tape and garbage and regulation. Look, that's been a problem forever. That's one of the reasons that Donald Trump said if you're going to add new regulations at the federal level, you have to get rid of a certain number that are already there, because we're just buried in regulation every single day. Look at California. They haven't even started to rebuild after the massive fires because nobody can get a permit to do anything, is an easy example. Permitting processes and all these things. When you talk about reducing red tape, what are some of the things that you're looking at?
Well, you're exactly right, Steve. And that's what we need to do in Michigan is follow the example of states like Texas, North Carolina that are growing because they're getting government out of the way and making it easier for their citizens to get to work. And here in the state of Michigan, frankly, our government is too slow and there's too many areas where red tape and permitting and government rules gets in the way of hardworking Michiganders from getting to work. So that's why I'm working with our House Republican colleagues on a package of more than 50 different bills that does everything from eliminate unnecessary licenses, look for ways that we can get our permitting system moving more efficiently, and delivering for Michiganders.
Yeah, we need to do that. When you talk about specifics, I mean, and I agree with you, we need to look at well, there's a whole list of things, Bill, that I could say we should be following suit with states that have seen it work. Let's say I'll take Tennessee as an easy example. Get rid of personal income tax. But instead, Michigan increased our income tax here recently, and nobody's doing that. Nobody's increasing income tax. Look what's going to happen in New York. There's going to be an exodus out of that city after today.
Oh, yeah.
Increasing taxes on individuals and businesses will drive people right out of New York. And look, I see car plants going to Indiana. I see other development in Ohio, other development in Tennessee. We are not business friendly in Michigan the way those states are we?
No, and it's no wonder that states like Indiana and Ohio are eating our lunch. And, Steve, you and I, we're both competitive guys, and we don't like to lose in anything. We especially don't want to lose to Ohio, right?
Ever.
And we're losing to Ohio because it takes you 3 times as long to get a permit in the state of Michigan, and you're paying lower in taxes. So why? And your energy costs are lower. So
and the roads are still better. Don't forget, the roads are still better in all those states. Yeah,
it's remarkable.
All right, give me a couple of examples, though, Bill. I know you look at these. For example, I mean, there's a housing crunch all over this country. Is there a way to expedite permitting on building houses, a way to expedite getting permits for other projects? It just seems to me there's got to be a way to make things happen faster, more efficiently, and less waste, because the more time it takes, the more money it takes. Taxpayer money oftentimes getting wasted in the process too, right?
You're exactly right, and you hit the nail on the head with housing, because more than $90,000 to every single family or multifamily build in the state of Michigan has regulatory costs built into that, additional cost. So if we can do things like make sure that the department, we have a one-stop shop for permitting. So you need to get a permit. Where do you need to go to get your permit for building a new housing unit in the state of Michigan? You've got to go to 6 different state agencies, right? So how about instead of 6, you go to 1, right? That's a good place to start. And then you look at the timelines that it takes to get those permits. Let's have a process. Say, if you don't have this by 90 days, if you don't have a response back from the government by 90 days, you have a shall issue permit model. I think that's a good way to bring some accountability back to the process.
I'm going to voice a personal complaint here. I am. We had a house fire at a rental house a year ago now, just over. And there's been some permitting, and that's not actually been the issue. The issue is dealing with DTE. They've made the process painful, and this apparently is normal. They're slow. They don't react. They don't call back. You can't rebuild a house if you don't have electricity. Just pretty much common sense, right? And it's been a real problem. And just another example of things that stand in the way. This house should have been done 2 or 3 months ago. The biggest roadblock to us has been, in fact, the state came in and approved, passed the inspection, boom, DTE comes over, yeah, we don't like it. Well, we need you to move your temporary electrical service. Took another couple of months to get that figured out, because even though the state of Michigan said yes, DTE said, yeah, we don't like it. Don't like it. The state says it's perfectly fine. Nope, don't like it. You got to move it. It's just like, wow. one roadblock after another. That's my personal complaint. I think that there should be things done about that as well.
No, you hit the nail on the head with, not only do we have a government that's permits take too long, its processes take too long, but then they ask private companies to ask all these series of questions. Then they put these requirements on private companies. They make it harder for them to, issue their services to Michiganders across our state. It's a toxic culture that needs to shift and needs to change. And I tell you what, too, Steve, we have some nonsensical licenses right now in the state of Michigan. You need a license to be a potato dealer, a plant grower, to be a butter grader. I don't think you should need a license to say this is grade A or grade B butter.
Wait. A butter grader?
Butter grader. Yeah,
right,
butter grading requires a license. Yeah.
And I don't remember which way this went. A couple years ago, it came to my attention. It's either putting down tile or putting down carpet. One has to be licensed, one doesn't. Here's the big problem, Bill. The year I was born, 1960-something, about 5% of the people in the state of Michigan had to have a license or a permit to work in the state. It's now almost half. You cut hair, you got to have a license. Look, the free market will weed people out. If you can't cut hair well, you're going to go out of business.
And on hair cutting, Steve, you need more training hours to be a licensed hairstylist and barber in the state of Michigan than you need to be a commercial airline pilot. Does that make any sense?
No. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's insane. You have to have, I think it's like 1,600 hours to become a hairstylist. I heard some wild number. I could be off on that, and somebody can correct me, but you're right. It's a ridiculous amount of time and effort and money to cut hair. Look, I will tell you, if I get a bad haircut, I'm not going back. The free market will fix it. The free market will put good people at the top, and people that are not qualified will not survive. That's why the free market's supposed to be what we use in this country and in this state. I'll give you the last word, Bill. It's very important that we cut this stuff down.
No, you're exactly right, Steve, and that's what House Republicans are focused on. We're focused on making sure your government works for you and making sure that you're getting value for your tax dollars, making sure that there isn't unnecessary burdens imposed by the state of Michigan that are arbitrary and getting in the way of you just living your life and building a better future for your family.
And the question then becomes, can you get Democrats to see the light and say, you're right, we should get rid of some of these regulations, because I think that's going to be a hill to climb that you're never going to get up. Not until you get the majority back in the Senate and maybe a governor in Michigan that's a Republican. Bill Schuette, always appreciate talking to you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk soon. When we come back, Ivy will be here with all her loveliness, her big radiant smile, her big personality. She's going to be here. Bells on. I know, I saw her put them on earlier, bells. We'll be right back. About to get mauled. He's looking for a jump spot. Oh, here he comes. All right, the mascot, the studio mascot, making himself known. Little Kitty is prowling the studio, so if he makes an appearance, he makes an appearance. Ivy's going to make an appearance. Ivy, good morning, man. Do you look nice today?
Oh, thank you. Maybe a bit refreshed after our long weekend away.
Yeah, we had a great weekend. We went to Charleston, South Carolina. Fascinating city with a remarkable history, both good and bad, depending on your perspective. You know, a place that was instrumental in the slave trade, but also instrumental in commerce. It's where the Civil War started. A place now, though, that's very far removed from a lot of that. Prosperous place, interesting place. I had a great, and the food.
Oh my goodness.
The food was great, and not like you had to get. I didn't gain any weight, which is beautiful. I checked.
that.
I gained not a pound, but it's seafood, and it was great. You loved it, didn't you?
I did. What was your favorite meal? What was your favorite? Okay, how about food item?
Food item. I think. Well, we had this. It actually wasn't seafood. It was a pork taco of some fashion that was remarkable. Right. We had a fish taco and a pork taco. We split. The pork taco was some sort of really remarkable thing. And then there was this mousse pate that was really just off the charts. I don't know. And, of course, the oysters were great. I like oysters. They were fabulous.
Delicious. That's the one thing about being, on a coastal city. You can get a tremendous amount of fresh seafood, and that's always wonderful. But so oysters there were excellent, and then this it's pork barbacoa.
Barbacoa,
yeah, unbelievable.
I would say this. I would definitely go back. We only scratched the surface. We saw Rainbow Row, where what had been the slums had been reimagined by some women, a specific woman in the 1930s, and then she had these other women came in, and it's one of the most iconic parts of the city. But what I'd like to, and of course we saw Fort Sumter at a distance where the Civil War started, but I'd like to go back because, as you know, I have a fascination for fossils. I have a fascination for, giant fossilized shark's teeth. Yeah. That is the #1 place in the world to find these things. We didn't have that dialed into our schedule, but it was an easy flight. And despite all the problems with TSA,
we didn't have any issues.
None.
No delays, no problems getting through the airport. No problems on the flight. No flight delays there. So
everybody was pleasant.
Yeah.
Everybody was, even though they're not getting paid, they were still very pleasant. And it was a straight shot from Detroit to Charleston, so it was an easy flight up and down, less than 2 hours. I would do it again, and I would do it again and go find those shark's teeth.
Absolutely. Yeah. And kind of an interesting story too is my first time I had taken you to a couple of surprise things. One being making pottery. Yeah. On a wheel, and so that I had not done that ever before. So
got
that was
dirty,
really
man.
Cool.
We got dirty.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun.
And yeah, I love exploring and finding, shark's teeth or specifically around there. There's megalodon teeth that you can find, which is cool.
Sure.
And so there's endless things to do, kind of in those coastal cities, particularly this area. But it was incredible, and we'll definitely be back.
We were told by a lot of people what a great city Charleston is, because we asked some people we know, do you go to Savannah or Charleston? Savannah's great, go to Charleston. So I've never been to Savannah, Georgia. I've been all over Georgia. I've been all over South Carolina, had not been to either of those places. They said go to Charleston. And everybody who said that was exactly right. What a remarkable place, and the history was tremendous. And I didn't realize this. A couple of 100 years ago, it's the 4th biggest city in America. Mm-hmm. It was a bustling port with tremendous amount of wealth. Of course, they had free labor, so they had profit margins that were, unnatural, to say the least.
Yeah, one of the stories that I thought was interesting was along the coastline, there are these mansions that are really old, 16th, 17th, 1800s being built there. And
jaw-dropping.
The guy was like, when the Civil War started and they were shooting, artillery back and forth, cannons back and forth, the people were just sitting on their patios, like watching what was going
celebrating.
on.
Yeah, they thought that South Carolina would become its own country.
Yeah.
And they sat on their porches, 34 hours of bombardment of Fort Sumter, and they sat there drinking and partying the whole time, watching and cheering.
Sounds like a hurricane party down in Florida.
Yeah. They have those?
They do.
People are crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. But, speaking of surprises, a woman orders medicine by mail. That's something that I would do, right? And she gets a box of human fingers instead.
What?
Could you imagine, thinking that you're going to get supplements and you open it up?
Where'd you find that story? How did I miss that one? Where'd you find that?
This is on Vice.com.
Really?
Yeah, a woman in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, was waiting for a shipment of medicine and medical supplies. When it finally arrived, she ripped the box open and found it filled with human arms and fingers instead.
What the hell?
Could you imagine? Ah! And then, like, after,
It's Halloween, and this is what she gets.
Out.
Yeah, she gets cadaver parts in the mail.
Yeah.
Who makes that mistake?
I'm not sure.
I think so. Bob,
Either somebody
there's a call
that was
from Human Resources.
playing a bad joke on, the company, or
something.
Maybe had a couple too many cocktails before work. I don't know.
There's something. Fingers and arms and parts. So what do you do
and
with
it's
that?
and so the parts were actually meant for surgical training, but
Well,
you
I'm
you
sure,
just
right.
contact the company and say, hey, you sent me the wrong stuff, and thank you for completely traumatizing me.
Yeah, PTSD. I think she gets. I think she gets a
gosh.
settlement out of that deal.
Crazy, huh?
It is crazy.
So, we're talking about this. There's a lot of people online that are just really upset about this whole SNAP benefits. And
Yeah.
I really do think you had made an observation last week before we left town, which was the Democrats are utilizing this shutdown to see if they can gain some control
Absolutely.
in the House and in Congress to see if maybe they can, have some.
Well, gin up anger. Correct.
Well, gin up anger. But anyhow, I saw this story that so when Trump gets elected, we have all of these, Doge comes in and starts to analyze everything. Secretary Rollins actually asks she asks every state to send their SNAP data, and 29 states sent it. 21 blue states refused, and 2 sued them for asking.
For the information.
Yes.
On what the taxpayers are paying for SNAP benefits in their state.
Yes.
What were the 2 states that sued? Do you have
I
that?
don't know, actually, but
Look
I know
that up.
Michigan was one of the states that didn't send in the information.
Of course not.
Of course, they found massive fraud, and,
There you have it, yeah.
maybe we should uncover these things so that the people with SNAP benefits can actually get their SNAP benefits.
Now we knew exactly what we're paying. Okay. Ivy, good stuff. Got to run. Love you.
Love you.
All right. Look, there he is. Time is our most All right, back to it. You know, Anthony just pointed out, if you don't need to read English, maybe the cat can drive a CDL. You know, just get a CDL. What do you think, Anthony?
Might as well.
Might as well. So who remembers Toonces, the driving cat, Steve Martin?
Oh, I remember. Yeah, that's the former Saturday Night
See?
Live skit.
Well, it means we're old, Brock.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, yes, I am.
Yeah, it was what? It was Steve Martin and sometimes Victoria Jackson and sometimes a couple of others. Yeah.
Yeah.
Toons is the driving cat.
Yeah. So yeah.
It wouldn't end well.
Well, how do you know? I mean, it doesn't end well for these folks.
No, Toons is the skit. It never ended well for them. You know,
No.
Toonses, look out! And, well, you know.
All right. Anyhow, been a good day, right? I'm glad to be back. We'll go from there. Good day to be back. The weather, you know what the thing is? Weather was great in South Carolina. It was. Highs were like 65, 68. And did a historical tour, did a carriage ride. It was all great. But when we landed in Detroit, it was a little cooler. And Ivy and I are both like, I love fall weather. I do. I like fall weather. But I'm going to warn you, the bottom's about to fall out. The bottom is about to fall out. It's going to be low 20s here in southern Michigan, anyhow, in, let's see, how many days? Sunday, by the weekend, lows at 22 degrees. And snow in the forecast. 61% chance of snow on Sunday, November 9th. How's that make you feel, Anthony?
I'm for it. I'm ready.
You're down. Yeah.
Break out the 4-wheel drive.
Bad news. I don't know if you heard, Brock, but because of the government shutdown, paychecks are not going out this week.
Yeah, Steve, you're not getting paid either.
Ah, Lord. All right. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is The Steve Gruber Show. Follow us on all the social media platforms. Send me emails at stevegruber.com. And remember, together we can save this country, no matter what happens this election day. Work harder. Be better.